Jason Bishop had which was his cover name, the code name of Red Herring, infiltrated numerous anarchist and environmentalist activist groups, including Clean the Streets, Earth First, Disarm Dicey. It was deployed between 1999 and 2005, though there was a bit where he kind of came out and came back in, but we haven't got to that yet. I'm joined by Emily Apple, who was someone who he targeted and likely infiltrated. We've been hearing further questions for him this morning. And what have you made of what we've heard?
Well, it's all been very slow.
Very slow, yeah. I mean, we've only just got up to the end of 1999,
yeah.
Which, I mean, is very early in his deployment.
Yeah, so we've covered very little. We've covered stuff around his cover employment, and we've covered J18 pretty briefly, really, given how significant it has been to the inquiry. We've just got on to N30. So, yeah, we're right at the very beginning of his deployment. Yeah, really strange, really slow, really strange just to hear him speaking again, because obviously we don't have the visuals, which would have been really good to see him after all these years.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, you kind of wonder what he looks like. Obviously, there are huge numbers of photographs of him from the time.
Yeah.
So, you know, it is possible to guess what he looks like, but we're not getting to see it. It's always really it's always a frustrating process because we don't even get to see the room. He's joining remotely, but we don't. It's not just a matter of the screens pointing the other way. It was just that there's a big barrier up, and we're in like a separate room essentially from the rest of the inquiry.
Yeah, and not being able to see how he's reacting to questions, because even in the little bit that we've had so far, there's been loads of stuff that sort of contradicted his witness statement, that he's just gone, oh yeah, I kind of accept that, and it's just been kind of like, well, yeah, you just talked a load of bollocks.
He like so many of the undercover officers, it seems very clear that his written statement was drafted by someone he spoke to, and he has not familiarized himself with what he said at the time before going in to give evidence, because a number of things have been brought up to him. He went, oh, did I say that? Well, it must be true then, you know.
I mean, it's just such a bizarre way of dealing with the inquiry. I think it shows the contempt they've got for the whole thing as well, that they haven't bothered to go back over their witness statements, over what was said or anything like that, and that they're then kind of like acting surprised at stuff that they've said themselves. It's just kind of like, yeah, sort it out.
I mean, something else that's been a hallmark of the questioning that we've had so far from him this morning has been lots of references to like, oh, it's such and such in their statement, which we can't show you because it's not been published yet. Which I mean really shows again how the inquiry is lagging behind something terrible, really.
Oh, completely. I mean, we had so much fuss over deadlines for our statements last year.
A special hearing, no less.
We had a special hearing. Meeting was very rude about it.
Very rude. Very, very rude. There's a Spike Ops Info podcast episode about how rude Meeting was that day.
Yeah, he was quite incredibly rude. Also the stuff that we could have possibly have extensions, that they needed this time. What they've been doing with this time is beyond me. I was told my witness statement will be published last week, still not published. They're still processing exhibits for today. Things are going up, like while the hearing is going on, things are going up. It's fuss, really.
I mean, it's particularly interesting. I mean, we haven't got that far, but not only that. I mean, his deployment starts early in 99. For the first 6 months, he doesn't file any reports. There's no pressure on him because he was given the opportunity to walk before he could run. So we see very sporadic reports. And certainly nothing about June the 18th, which he himself admits was the focus for C Squad. For that time period, it was considered to be the major public order challenge that they were facing. Jim Boyling was obviously already in the field, and a lot of the questioning is really related to Jim Boyling's deployment, and a lot of questions about his interactions with Rosa, who was one of the women who Jim Boyling deceived into a relationship, having 2 children with her, as well as Ruth, who he claims not to remember at all, despite the fact that she was chairing in the streets meetings at the time, which he was regularly attending, though not filing reports about.
I mean, it seems quite incredible to me. I mean, I think it's all this, oh, I can't recall, or, you know, and that he doesn't remember. Like he's like, oh no, I don't remember any of these relationships that Boyling had. Well, it's just like, well, either you're lying or you were shit at your job because you weren't observing very well. You know, given that his whole purpose was to gain intelligence, like being able to notice who was in a relationship with each other seems like pretty key.
I'm pretty basic. I mean, from
Yeah.
what Boiling said, there was no hiding of these relationships.
No.
They're very coupley in public. Everybody who was spoken about it said, "Oh, yeah, we knew that these people were in relationships." He was not only a colleague, but also in the same fields. Infiltrating the same groups, surrounding himself with the same people. I mean, it's incredulous, and I mean, I think it just undermines all his evidence. The fact that he's not admitting to knowing that.
Oh yeah, completely. And I think there's been even in the sort of slowness of what we've heard so far, there's been so much that sort of undermines his credibility. And even when he was sort of talking about relationships or the possibility of entering into sexual relationships, at the one hand, it was just like, oh no, that would be totally wrong. And, I didn't know anything about that. But then it was just like, oh no, but it was as common as what was the phrase? What suit you'd wear, or weird fucking phrase.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, you've just said that. Well, no, that would be really wrong. There was no suggestion of that. But then, oh no, but that could be really common. But then you haven't noticed any of it. There's no credibility there whatsoever.
No, I mean he has gone. He has been very loyal to his former colleagues, the unit. He's unwilling to criticize any of his former colleagues. I mean, we have in the situation where he's asked about the safe house meetings that they had twice a week. He keeps rolling back on things he says. He talks about the drinking culture, and then is like, oh, but obviously we had to drive after the meeting, so it would never be more than 1 or 2 pints.
Well, I was thinking that if I have 2 pints, I'm over the limit.
Well, quite, yeah. I mean, the fact that he just referred to drinking culture doesn't suggest having 1 or 2 quick pints.
Doesn't at all.
The slightest.
And they all drank loads. Loads of them. We knew.
I mean, one of the interesting ones I think is he talks about the fact that he shared a flat with a fellow undercover officer, which supposedly was to improve both their covers. The fact they both were going to live together. I mean, this does not make any sense to me at all. We heard during tranche 1 of an undercover officer in the 1970s who shared a flat with another undercover officer, and how when the office found out about this, they were livid. That this was a very bad tradecraft. You try and you don't associate each other too much. But he's claiming that, oh no, this was good tradecraft, even though the 2 officers were in different fields.
Yeah, and I kind of remember that being slightly strange at the time, that he was living with someone in the animal rights movement, because he never talked about the animal rights movement or seemed to have any affiliation with it. He wasn't vegan that I remember. I think he might have been vegetarian. I know we were vegan and he wasn't. So yeah, that was always a bit weird. But then, people know each other and find things. So we didn't question it hugely, but
because you don't, right?
No,
it's just not normal.
Exactly.
It's not normal.
That's
not what people do.
Why are you living with this person?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you've obviously met somewhere, but it didn't seem like a very natural pairing of how they knew each other or came to be living together. That was weird.
Yeah, very. I mean, one of the interesting points was that I think that he was questioned about the fact that HN60 was considered to be an active member of the drinking culture that existed within London Animal Aid at the time, Animal Action rather, and he says, "Oh yes, he could drink." And he said, "Oh, did you drink with the animal rights activists?" He went, "Oh no, normally we just drank together." So as well as having this alcoholic kind of deployment, they were also using their time with each other to drink.
Yeah.
I mean, great.
We all need some jobs like this.
Yeah, totally. We just had some comments from someone saying, racist, sexist, alcoholic. Yeah, Jason Bishop's your type, your typical pig. Yeah, absolutely. Someone has just commented that the picture is pixelated. I do apologize, but there's terrible trouble with the Wi-Fi at the venue today, so I'm having to stream this via my phone. I will make sure that the Campaign Opposing Police Surveillance get the original file, which is recording as I'm doing this, so they can upload a better quality version for posterity on that channel. So sorry about that. But yeah, if anybody, please, there's 20 people watching, only 2 have liked. If you're able to like this video and share it, I know it's so cringe asking, but it makes a huge difference to how many people see it. If you've got any questions, please do leave a comment. So yeah, going back to the questioning that we had of Bishop, like we said, there's very little about June the 18th. I mean, nothing at all actually in his reports about June the 18th. He talks about his involvement on the day, that he witnessed things. But I mean, what came across very strongly was the role that the SDS officers had in terms of identifying people from photographs that the forward intelligence teams were providing to them. And he talks about quite laboured, really, about one individual who supposedly hit a cop with a shovel once.
And again, it was one of these things of kind of like, he cites in his statement as this was the worst disorder I saw, but then under question, I was like, oh, well, I didn't actually see it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Going back to what we were talking about the other day, of like the number of officers that they say got pulled off horses. Like, as soon as that came up, I was like, oh, we're here again, are we?
Yeah. And then he's like, oh no, it wasn't pulled off a horse. Just to be clear, it was hit with a shovel. Did you see it? Oh no,
No.
someone told me about it. Who told you about it? Or the person who said they did it. I mean, it was just, come on. Not very credible. We also, like I said, we got onto November the 30th, N30, which was an international protest against the World Trade Organization, very famously in Seattle at that time, but there were actions that took place around the world, and there was one in London. He claims this was his first time as an organizer.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember him from then. I attended N30 as a participant. I remember it as, I think it was the first big police kettle.
Yes.
That was the first time they did that.
Yeah.
And again, it, like so many of these events that they've talked about, it was the policing on the ground that made things kick off in any way, that any disorder was caused by the police and how they responded to it. And again, it's sort of like with all these things, there's this fundamental question of, their entire role was supposed to be providing this intelligence. What was this intelligence informing? Right. They're continually saying that they're there to prevent disorder, but then their intelligence isn't being used to prevent disorder. It's creating disorder. So it sort of makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was quite telling. There was it was put to him, was there any reaction from your managers about the fact that June the 18th resulted in disorder, and that there'd been such deep penetration by Boiling. And there are two undercover officers in all the planning meetings, one of whom was central, the one who had spent, been the treasurer for it, had spent £13,000 on materials, and yet it resulted in disorder. Was this a disappointment? Was it to anybody? And he's, oh no reaction like that at all. It was just accepted. And it's like, I thought you were about public disorder. You're not bothered that your officers have failed so badly.
It just makes no sense. Like, like I just can't work out what they, well, I mean, I know what they were doing in terms of political policing, in terms of the disruption they were trying to cause and those kind of things. But just in terms of their stated aims, it's just ludicrous. And to have no reaction to, like he's said in his statement, this was the most serious disorder that he saw.
The worst protest.
The worst protest.
That's the best, by the way, for anybody with any sense. That means it's the best.
It really was.
Yeah.
But yeah, for there to be no reaction to managers from that, or that he recalls, be interesting to see what the managers say about this. But I imagine they're going to say a sort of similar thing, because if they kind of go, well, they're not going to go, oh, this was a major fuck up. Like we shouldn't have. Like we should have done something better with this intelligence. They're not going to say that. But yeah, it's an extraordinary reaction.
One of the things that also came up was these meetings. They were what do you call desk meetings? These meetings with C Squad that apparently only happen twice a year. And just put this in some context, the intelligence that the Special Demonstration Squad are creating, and by this point is pretty much only going to C Squad. There are no other real customers left. No. MI5 has lost interest supposedly, and has withdrawn from any of this field after in the mid 90s. They no longer are collecting STS intelligence. So their main customers is C Squad. Yet they only have direct meetings with them twice a year, which seems very little, at which C Squad turn up with a binder full of photographs and wanting to confirm a bunch of information. What really, basically, the SDS to mark the homework of the forward intelligence teams, who are going around, for those who don't know, going around harassing, stalking activists, going to meetings, public events, benefit gigs, photographing people, generally being really obnoxious, incredibly obnoxious. I mean, I think with all the stuff with the spy cops and stuff, we often forget how obnoxious the fit were.
Oh yeah, I mean it was blatant harassment. It was designed designed as harassment style policing. The entire purpose was to harass activists off the streets to deter them from protesting. I mean, I remember one of the anti-war demos, someone coming up to me and saying, I couldn't do what you do because I couldn't deal with the attention you get from the fit tunes.
Yeah.
And you know, they did put people off.
And that was a really, really common refrain.
Yeah.
I mean, and it did put huge numbers of people off. I mean, certainly I had some really, really negative experiences of that myself. But you know, these meetings, they're happening like twice a year. There's this very rare opportunity for an SDS officer to actually feed back in. And I mean, though it wasn't addressed at all by Jason Bishop, who clearly I don't think would admit to it, but we're really seeing that there was these were rival sections of the cops.
Yeah.
That actually C Squad didn't appreciate the SDS, and the SDS treated them with a level of contempt.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And they do seem to be rivals. I mean, but there was direction from
yes,
the SDS to the fit on who to target as well. But yeah, complete rivals. And I think, you know, like, because the fit used to do their own intelligence gathering. Like, if I was seen talking to someone at a protest, they'd go and stop and search them. They'd go and try and find out who they were. So they weren't getting that information from Jason Bishop. They were getting it from harassing other people.
Yeah. I mean, we've heard from Jim Boyling saying that, you know, they didn't want to expose. They didn't want C Squad to know who the individual officers were inside groups because they feared that they would expose them, which is quite an extraordinary fear, really, quite frankly, for different elements of the police to have. We had some comments from Bishop about how he said that Reclaim the Streets, by having an anti-capitalist agenda, were guaranteeing disorder, and which was quite a bold claim. And he was pushed on this, and he just melted. He just went,
no, I phrased that badly.
Yeah. And I mean, I think just shows that when he prepared his written statement, he sat down and had a chat with the lawyer who wrote it up, and he hasn't looked at it since.
Yeah. Hasn't looked at it since, and also he's just kind of, I think they've just gone on these like basic kind of like assumptions. Oh, you know, that's how it was. That's fine.
Yeah.
They haven't thought about the fact that they're going to have all this evidence from all of us about how different things were that contradicts everything that they say, and that they haven't really thought about anything that they were saying. To have such a quick rowback, it was really kind of sudden. It was just like, oh no, that was misphrased. And we heard that a few times.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, that was badly phrased.
Yeah.
Well, you supposedly wrote the bloody thing.
Yeah. And I think this non-committal approach, which kind of goes throughout. I don't recall today, you know, this idea of, I don't recall now, which I mean is always very pointed because it shows that at some point he might wish to recall these things if anything else further comes up. But, you know, they're very non-committal about so many things. And I don't feel we're getting a lot out of this witness.
No, we're really not. And it'll be interesting to see. I think the questioning hasn't been particularly good. The questioning's been very slow. It's been very disorganized. And it hasn't been very pointed in kind of, because there's been so many sort of direct contradictions that need teasing out a little bit further. You know, on something like the DVDs, that he's totally minimized in his statement. Like in his statement, he's just like, oh, I occasionally lend activist copies. It's like not this like turning up and providing people with loads of stuff, or the cracked software that he provided. That's all minimized in his witness statement. And, you know, and stuff like, the bin bags of DVDs at his flat that I used to go around them. There were bin bags of DVDs. And he just went, oh yeah, that would have been right. Well, why have you got like bin bags of them if you're just occasionally lending the odd DVD?
Yeah. No, I mean, it really quite dismissive of what appears to be a criminal operation that he was involved with. And certainly kind of spoke to something we heard from Jim Boyling a week before last, where he talked about, you know, the undercover officers were either involved with drugs, sex, or crime. And if he was like Bishop, it was crime. Yeah,
it was totally crime. And like he's saying that, oh yeah, well, from like the people organising the RTS thing, they didn't want disorder. You know, they were trying to minimise the stuff. And then on the other hand, he's part of this criminal enterprise that's actually far more serious than the like minor public order stuff that he was supposed to be interested in. But like, you know, and he was asked about whether any considerations were given to the ethics of this, and he was just like, no,
not even considered.
And that was just left. It was just kind of like, oh yeah, all right.
So we also found out that he was the organizer of one of the social trips that the SDS took, the one to Las Vegas. And it was just one of many social trips they took, there seems to be a correlation between the choice of venues that they went on these trips and the legalization of prostitution.
Yes, it does.
So they went both to Amsterdam and Nevada, Las Vegas. He claimed this is because he was a fan of gambling.
Oh yeah, that was nice, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah.
But that was the acceptable bit, apparently.
Yes, yeah. And he was asked, was a lot of drinking involved? Oh, more the good food. Yes, the Nevada food scene, which were
I was thinking it was all these officers who were pretending to be vegan or vegetarian. They just got to go away and eat a load of awful shit.
But no, I mean, he downplays the idea that any of them would have, taken drugs in Amsterdam or Vegas, or would ever use sex workers or gone to a strip club, despite the fact this is a big part of the economy of both places. I mean, it was quite funny because when it was brought up, he went, "Oh yes." I mean, first we started talking about it, then before you know it, the whole road show was getting involved, and you could see that there was you could hear in his voice that it was like, "Oh, this is bringing back happy memories." And then he was like, "Oh, hang on, I better get a bit measured here." Yeah. And he's like, "Oh no, we went for a meal together, and then we went on separate ways." Definitely nobody used sex workers.
Oh no, not at all. And no one took drugs. No one did anything bad. We just we went off in small groups. We ate some food. It's just beyond belief.
Not credible.
And they've got this line that they're giving, and I think the thing is, because there's so many other areas where we have evidence that disputes that credibility, that there's nowhere left to go with stuff like this. Like, it is completely incredulous. This was a boys' jolly. They would have been seeing sex workers. They would have been taking drugs. They'd have been drinking heavily. That was their, it was their time to release.
Yes.
And I think he said something along those lines about that release. I was thinking, actually, there's times when all these people must have disappeared from the field altogether to go on these trips. Yeah.
No, I mean, which surely would have been very marked. I know we saw some of his reporting. I mean, not a huge amount, but there was some particular bits where we saw a sign of something which a lot of the undercover officers seem to do in their reports, which is make light of fairly personal information. He talks about somebody contracting hepatitis, blames one woman's particular sex life for this, says she was being generous and sharing it around. Quite gross.
That was utterly awful. And he was asked this in the context of whether there was prevalent sexist attitudes within the Met at the time, and he was just like, "Oh no, this was just a misjudged bit of reporting by me." Nothing.
To be clear, there's a pattern of this across the officers,
all of them, and that it was never pulled up by the managers. You can't say, "Oh, well, this wasn't the culture," when you're putting in reports like that, and that's acceptable, and then you keep on putting in reports like that. And all of them do it.
Just looking at some of the comments, we've got one here saying Jason wouldn't even admit to writing a report that was near identical to one the inquiry knows is his. Not a reliable witness. Yeah, absolutely. Another comment from Jack Shepherd is that my food is here, which is marvelous. We are going back in 15 minutes. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I mean, just interested to see what comes out this afternoon and how far in the chronology we get, since we're only up to night 9.
So I mean, just to reiterate, originally Jason Bishop was due only to give evidence today, which was a bit shocking, really. I mean, and the part of this ridiculous statement by admitting that it was an unremarkable deployment, which I feel should ring in his ears forever, really. But so he will be coming back on Thursday, but he will be sharing the day with Lois Austin, who I'm sure has got a great deal to say about the deployment of Carlos Araki, who will be giving evidence next week. So it is just an extra. So we've got a full day's worth left this afternoon and next week again in the afternoon. Anything particular you hope comes up?
Well, so many things, because I knew Jason really, really well. I mean, in particular, I want to hear him justify why he reported my child's name and date of birth 6 days after he was born, bought him a giant cuddly toy, all these kind of things. There's a load of personal stuff. The way he's reported on interpersonal relationships. Also, this whole stuff around the justification for spying on anti-arms trade campaigners, financial value of the Defence Systems and Equipment International Exhibition to the UK state, avoiding embarrassment to the state, and actually getting to the heart of why these people were deployed in our movements that wasn't to do with disorder. It was to do with the state's interests.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back with another video during the afternoon break. And I'll be reporting live in the hearings on X and elsewhere. Please share, please like, all those kind of things. I'm so embarrassed to actually say it. It sounds so cringe. Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. Food.
Great. Yeah, food. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers.
Yeah, enjoy your food. Love to you all. Solidarity. Thank you very much. Cheers. Bye for now.